All right, welcome to our course and community call. And we are, I'm like, okay, what week are we in? Like 6, I think. And so 5 or 6. So great job. And so let's jump into wins in learning. So what are your wins in learning this week?
Is Kim still here? I don't see her anymore.
Yeah, she's out there walking her dog.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So there you are. I just like last week was able to get my website up and going, and it was very much God. Like there's no way I could have done that on my own. Every time that I would hit a spot where I was like, and I only had, like an hour here and an hour there. It wasn't like, all day long, or it was just like kind of these pockets of time. And every time I would hit a snag and be like, ooh, I don't know how to do this, if it took me too long, I would just put it away and come back to it later. Or a lot of times I would Google it and I would find the way to do it. And it was just, I know there's still some things, fine tuning that I need to do, but like it feels like it feels like I'm having this culmination of all the work I've been doing for the last 10 years, between this and then speaking next week. And I just feel like I'm really starting to see the fruits of my labors and the things that I've been working on for a long time, and just seeing God's hand in it. And it's been really amazing.
That's awesome. And I love that you said that, seeing all of that starting to come together, like everything working. And isn't it so fun to go and look at your website and be like, yeah, like I have this, like I have this thing. And
yes.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to someone this morning, somebody that we had kind of done a trade for a couple of sessions. And when we were done, I was like, yeah, so here are your 2 options. And, whichever one you want to do, you can go to my website. And if you want to schedule a session with me, you can just schedule it through Calendly and pay right there. I mean, like I literally got all the links up and functioning. There was a lot that went into it. It should have taken me way longer than it did. And so it just feels really good to like have that there and be like, yeah, just go to my website and it'll take, you can sign up for this or whatever. It just feels really good.
And it looks good. Like when you get on there, and I have to say, like, I know, like when you're doing your opt-in and it was all the struggle of going through that landing page issue.
We spent like a solid week
just
on that.
Yeah. But if you think about it, like all the stuff we went through to learn how to story brand, you were able to take everything you learned there and apply it.
Right.
And then you just had to learn how to use it within your website.
Right.
But then you're like, oh, I know how to do this. I just need to make it look this way. And when you have the right tool, right, your website, then it looks the way you want it to look, right? So it looks beautiful. So great job. Like that's awesome. And you did ask me some questions on Marco, and we'll come to those. I haven't had a chance to click all the buttons on your thing yet, but eventually one suggestion that I would make is on that that page, that eventually you change that from your home page to just a landing page.
I will.
And then you'll have a link, like you were saying, like I want my opt-in on there. What I would do is, if you want that opt-in on there, I would be at the very bottom as a like a side call to action. Does that make sense? Because that landing page, really, you want to keep focused on your group, and then you have your discovery call. And if somebody does that discovery call and they're not ready, you can say, okay, well then I'm going to give you this one tool that I use all the time to help women start their day off right. And you can get my free opt-in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then that way it's kind of like a downsell, where you have a couple things, or we can do a personal session, or you can come and do this group and you can.
So should I put a link for that on that front page also for a one-on-one session, or leave that just on my services page?
I leave it on your services page right now, because on this page, this really is focused on, this is a sales page,
right,
for your community, right? So I would leave that. And then when you build out your homepage, your eventual real home page that you're doing, some of that's going to stay. You can use some similar pieces to that you already have, like your pain points. but the bottom below is going to say, this is how I help you. I've got this, this, and this. Does that make sense? Like I've got these 3 ways I can help you. And then they'll click on one and we'll take them to that specific page. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. A great way you can look at that is if you go to, Diane gave me a link and I will share it with you, but it's the story brand. It's from them and like how that looks. Also, when you go to Tasha's website, not her Funnel Breeze, because the Funnel Breeze one is great to see a sales page, right? But if you go to her homepage and you kind of see how we do that too, and that way we can work through that. Yeah. And that's what I like to look at. Okay, here, and here are the 3 things we offer. And we can create another, I don't think I have one yet, but we could create a homepage template in Canva so you can kind of see the flow as well.
Okay.
So, okay. So hopefully that was helpful for you. So, yes. Okay. All right, Kim, what wins in learning did you have?
Hello. Great job, Tanya, by the way. I haven't had a lot of time to go through and look at your website, but I did see that you got it out there, so that's awesome. And wins and learnings for me is, like I told Lamira, I've got a good plan, I think, in place for this course. My brain's already jumping ahead to other courses, so I have to be careful that I just write down the notes as new plans. But anyway, so I think that's good. I have I've made it through I've gone through all of Brooke's stuff. I didn't do the 5-day just because I'm not ready to start promoting the course yet. So I'll look at that once I get kind of the framework out there in and start putting the pieces together. So I'm just I've downloaded a add-on to my WordPress to start creating the framework to add my course. And I just want to get familiar with how that particular add-on tracks the course, what it looks like, kind of the feel of it, if that's the one I want to use or not. So that's what I'm working on this week.
I love that. Great job. And I love to see, I know, Tanya, you sent me your production schedule, like that you'll do eventually. And I know you're building that as you go. So, and then Kim, as you get that, either way, those outlines so we can see, okay, this is what I'm teaching, here's what's coming, because that makes a difference on those outcomes. And I love that. And making sure you're very clear that it feels like very tangible outcome. So I love that. And so Kim, thanks. And I think that's great work, because that's a lot. The tech side of this sometimes is Tanya will say too, and I know Kim was saying that it takes time, like to put it on the back end if you're doing it, and to be, like you said, get familiar with it. And so once you're familiar with it, it's so much easier. And what I would encourage you both to do, and this is something Diane and I have both talked about, is that as you go through, it is so important that you build out a nurture sequence with your plan. And when I'm talking through email, and the easiest way to do that is that as you're doing it, so like Tanya, as you're going to be building your course in real time, is that you do, you're going to teach that and film it. And then kind of like what we're doing here, and then you send out the assignments. Does that make sense? And then you create that in the email. So making sure that you both have an email marketing campaign set, like, so Tanya, you have ConvertKit, right? So we can use that. And that works with your website, correct?
I don't know how to link that to my website at this point. It's not.
Okay, and you use WordPress?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm sure there's probably a way, but I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, so usually that is where you would go in to, I would say linking ConvertKit to WordPress. Because what you want to do is, as somebody signs up, it's a plugin, right? You're going to go connect it, because then as they sign up, you want them to be able to go to a list in ConvertKit that says,
because then I can redo my landing page on a page on my website.
Yes.
Have it go into ConvertKit. Whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so, but even for this course for your community, once they sign up for that, you want them to be able to be tagged on a specific list so that after you meet with them, you can send out an email that says, here's what we talked about. Does that make sense?
So right now I have the way it is. So this is something, an area I could use some help in, is like right now they, I just have it set up. They go and pay it through Stripe. And then I'm assuming that I'll get an email from Stripe with their email address and phone number after they've paid. And so, but I'm not sure like if there's a better way for me to, you know.
There's probably, what I would do is look and see, because making sure that's set up that you'll get those emails, but also there's usually a way you can set it up where you do, like I know we do on the back end of ours with WordPress, is you have that integration. So like we use ActiveCampaign, you've got ConvertKit. Kim, do you have an email marketing set up yet? I think.
Sorry. Do you mean like MailerLite?
Yes.
I think that's
Yeah.
one somebody is. Yeah, but I think I might switch because Lifter owns MailChimp, I want to say. I'm going to try and sync it up so that whatever I use for my LMS is the same mail. Same company has them, so they integrate better. Okay.
Yeah. And I know some people don't love MailChimp. But we've had a gal who worked with it. So but you can do it either way. Okay. So with whatever one you choose to use, make sure you do a plugin and integrate it, because as they sign up for this, the number one reason, and Brooke mentions this, right? There's like 70% of people do not finish a course, or they'll fall off, or they won't come on. But the way they're going to stay engaged with your course and complete it is if they're getting nurtured, and email is the best way, right? You're going to be reaching out to them and seeing, but an automated email is going to help you so much. We're even looking at that for ourselves for the foundations in tier 1 to help you go, okay, now here's my next step, and here's my next. That way you feel like your hand is being held, okay, here's where I'm supposed to be next. Some people will do all the different kind of action tags. Oh, well, when they finish this, they'll get this next one. But in your case, I would just say, we're going to start up simply and to say, okay, week 1, here's what we've done. So Tanya, as you teach it that first week, or Kim, as soon as they sign up for it, they're going to get a welcome email that says, we're so excited to have you. Here's your first step. And the first step might be to come join our community, right? Wherever, if you have a private Facebook community, the first step might be to download this thing and to make your plan. Does that make sense? Or to watch this video, okay? And then you're going to nurture them each week. So if it's a week thing, then you're going to give them an email a week. Does that make sense? Like, here's the next step to do. If it's something in between, you might have an email in between. But the idea is so that it can be automated and you don't have to send out a welcome thing or a delivery thing every time somebody signs up, because it will automatically do it for you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So that way, no matter, like, because you're going to have students that just signed up today and some that signed up last week. So that's kind of what I want to play around with and make sure I will track all that and that I can get those form letters and everything set up. So
so I would recommend both of you, if you do kind of do that first initial welcome, right? Even if you can do a welcome one and just outline it and say, okay, here's what I want my welcome to sound like. So glad you're here. And you're just going to reiterate the outcomes that you said they're going to get. I'm so excited to help you with this. This is about how long you can expect this to take, or this is how often we meet. And if you're not meeting, like in your case, Kim, where yours is probably they download it and they're going to go through it on their own, right? Is that mainly what yours is? It's not, is it a?
Yeah, I think what I'll do is set up 1 hour that I am available, that I'll just dial onto in a Zoom call, and whoever dials on can tell me what's going on for them or questions. Yeah, like a 1 hour open office hours that anyone can join. I'll see how that works. If it doesn't, if I'm getting, depending on if I get a lot in different places in the course, or if I don't get anyone, I'll play around with it. But that's what I was going to start with.
I love that. And then making sure that you have that set up in your email sequence, that it reminds them that, hey, there's a hop on Zoom call. Don't forget to hop on at this time. If you have questions, you can't hop on. Are you recording? And just think through that. Are you going to record it And if you are, where could they find the recording? Now you can decide if that's going to be something like a private Facebook group or that you can just go post them, if that makes sense. Or sometimes within an infrastructure of a course, so like Member Vault, sometimes you do this, or I don't know if Thinkific does, Tanya, or if Lifter will do this, Tim, but sometimes you can have a place where they can add comments below where you're like, okay, I'm just going to put it in its own little unit called office hours, where it's a Q&A thing, and you can put the date there.
It does, because then I thought if I don't get anyone in office hours, if for a time, then I can respond to comments that I've gotten as the course has gone on, and we can do tapping based on the feedback and stuff that people give me. So and I was going to put them in I don't have a Facebook group yet, but I'll set one up when for them to join and invite them to join. And I was just going to add them there.
Okay. And I think that's great. So in that welcome email, you welcome them, you tell them, first of all, how can they, like, just like Brooke had said, welcome, this is for you, making it all about them. It's their journey. And then here's what you're going to get. Here's what you're going to achieve during this time with me, right? And so you're basically going to repeat your outcomes that you just sold them on. And then, because that's what you're going to give them. And then you're going to tell them how to access their course and what they can expect their next steps. It doesn't have to be long, it can be super short. And then you're going to drip out, okay, here's the first lesson, here's the next lesson, here's the next, because people need to know what to do and when to do it. And then they'll do it. And so, and then letting them know how they can get help, how they can do that. So I would recommend.
Yeah, and then I was in those emails, I was gonna, have by now you should be feeling this way. If you're not, go back to lesson 1 or join office hours so that we can have a more in-depth discussion about it.
I love that. Or, and if it's like, or send me an email here, reply to this email, let me know. But I would encourage you both to look and see how you can connect that so that you can do an automated welcome email. And I know, Kim, you're still working on your structure and doing that. But Tanya, that's where I'd say your next step is probably making sure getting ConvertKit attached to WordPress so that you can at least get an automated welcome email. And if you're starting on a certain day, like May 1st or May 5th or whenever you're starting, then you just say that in your welcome email. We're going to be starting live on this day and this time. So excited to have you. And then you can put, usually in an email sequence, you can put a wait time, like, okay, wait for 1 week or wait until this day, and then send out the next email. So that way you can have time to write it out after you've done the next session, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I have a question then. So how, like, if I have it, like they sign up on like on my website, they sign up and that immediately goes to, they get put into an email, the welcome email. How would I have them pay? I'm struggling with like
So usually what happens is when they pay and they go to Stripe, so there's usually a way that you can actually integrate it and connect it. Does that make sense?
So would I do that through WordPress or would I do it through, what's that thing that connects all the things? I don't know all the technical words.
I know, right? Like all the thread. So I know, like when somebody pays for us, like it's integrated and it will say they'll get a tag and it integrates to ConvertKit. So as soon as they've paid, it says, so for instance,
so I need to figure out Stripe to ConvertKit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so that's like when you guys signed up for the DTLC, okay, you came through JotForm, right? And I connected JotForm to Stripe, if that makes sense. And it became a product, and that is connected to ActiveCampaign. And so I connected JotForm to ActiveCampaign. So what you do is you say
JotForm to ActiveCampaign and ActiveCampaign to, or
yeah. So we need to look on the back end of yours when they click that and see that how that will work. So we just need to.
I'll just Google it and see if I can, because I would. So what is JotForm? Is that?
Oh, you don't need JotForm. That was just, I was saying that's what we use for you guys to sign up. But like when you signed up for the retreat, you went through Member Vault and you signed up for that, and that was connected to ActiveCampaign, but it's also connected to Stripe. So when you paid through Member Vault, it registered it in Stripe for us, but then it also created a tag in ActiveCampaign.
So I wonder if I
So-
could do it through Thinkific.
Yeah. So that what you would do is you would link your little button on there to Thinkific, and Thinkific would be integrated with Stripe and with ConvertKit.
Even though there's not anything in it yet, that still might be the easiest route to go, because they
Yeah.
might have like a questionnaire that I can have them fill out.
Yeah, like you could have your initial, you could just have a welcome module right there. There's welcome
Okay.
to 5-Minute Habits for Moms. So excited. Just almost repeating what's in your welcome email that says, here's what you can expect. Here's what we're going to do. And then you build it out as you are building it out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and if you have any free download, that might be where you give them a freebie to do while they're waiting, whether it's a video to watch or your, any kind of download that you have, even if it's your free opt-in. So glad you joined us. I'm going to give you this free opt-in to get you started, something to do. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. That sounds good. I'll look into that.
Does that give you some things to like know next steps, what to do?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be what I would say is for that assignment for both of you to come up with a welcome email that will also be like your welcome page in your course. Like, here's welcome, here's what we're going to do. So on that welcome page, you've got, always use their name if you can. Most places have a way that you can use a personalization tag or and it's different in each, platform, whether it's email or something. It will say, oh, this is, like in Active Campaign, it's like %, first name, %. In MailChimp, it's something else. You know what I mean? They have a little bit of an HTML type looking thing, but you want them when they get in, it will say, hey, Tanya, welcome to your course, right? So eventually you may do a welcome video, but in this case, at least get a welcome like email, some kind of copy that you can have that you can use both in your front page and on that. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. And on that, you're going to, again, I'll just reiterate this. So I make sure I write it down on that welcome page. You're going to have, remember what Brooke had mentioned, make it about them. It's their story. Here's what you're going to get, reiterate the outcomes, and then tell them what their next steps are and how they can connect. That makes sense. And what they can expect.
And I probably won't. It'll take me a little while to play around with Lifter and get that framework. So, but I'll definitely have that as my next thing to do is the welcome letter. I just want to make sure I get that. I don't know if I'll get all that done this week.
No, if you can, and I know even with Lifter, if you get it in and at least get a welcome thing, do you know what I mean? Like that. But because I know you're going to need, Kim, how far are you on your videos?
Well, I want to edit the first one and then it'll be ready to stick out there. So, and there'll actually be 2 because I'll have
you'll be breaking it up.
I haven't figured a catchy name for kind of this is tapping in general. You can always go back to this one if you have questions, kind of thing.
Okay, if you want to resend me anything, I can resend it if you want to see we're breaking it up. If you want me to look at specifically where to help, let me know.
Okay, I will. I've got so here's my other thing is I'm really resisting the 8-minute thing just because that's not how I learn, and I feel like that's like a great way for busy moms, but I'm in next phase of life, and so I really don't feel comfortable with breaking them into that small of chunks, especially because it's on procrastination. So I'm gonna keep I've just done a little bit of research on kind of optimal, and the optimal is 10 to 20 minutes.
Yes.
And so I may err on the side of the 20 minutes, but I'm not going to make it real small just because I don't feel comfortable with that.
And that's okay. And we've done that before. Like Connie and I have done, like with one of ours was like 15 to 20 minutes. And that's okay too. And so if you're like that, somewhere in there,
thinking,
it's like, oh, there's
in
a good
relation
break
to
time.
my audience.
Yeah.
They have a little more time and are able to focus because they're on so many distractions because they're not in that phase where they have lots of, the little ones. So I think it'll be better, but Well, we'll
And
play,
actually
we'll
that's,
see. Maybe it won't work or not, but
yeah. And I would say average, right? Because some might be a
Yeah.
little shorter, some might end up going 20, 25 minutes. Just like, I really can't shave that off. And so
Yeah.
just keeping that as like your baseline. And I love that you're really keeping that in mind, because you're right. Like sometimes some of us will do the 8-minute things and we'll binge them all. Right. And then, but like you said, with what you're doing and the work that they're doing, those 20-minute things, and like, okay, but even 20 minutes is more chewable. Like I can do a 20-minute thing, but if you tell me it's 45 minutes, I'm like, oh, I really have to make sure I'm sitting down. Right. But if you tell me 20 minutes, and then sometimes that will feel like 10, even though it's 20. And so, because it's really engaging and what you're doing is transformational, that if your content's that good, then it's fantastic to do that. Does that make sense? So, what you do train is very, what you're doing is good. So, but yeah, and if you want me to look at it and see and just say, hey, this is where I cut it off. Does this make sense to cut it off here? I'm happy to look at that, but I know you have a really good sense of what you're doing. So, but let me know. I would love to see it, and just at least one of them, or even if you send it to Tanya, so that way she can see, oh yeah, that makes sense.
I will
like
for
it
sure.
felt, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I actually, because I know Tanya has shared some information just of her hesitancy to do some tapping. And so I actually probably would prefer to send it to the whole group, so that if somebody's
Okay.
willing to actually do part of the course, that would help me, in terms
Yeah.
of feedback. But I know Tanya feels a little hesitant about that. So,
Yeah.
so I think it'd be better for me to get feedback from a broader group. Would you
Okay.
agree, Tanya?
Yeah, I totally understand.
And that being said, Kim, I think that actually brings up a great thing that you could address, whether in social media or something about, that's a pain point for you, is like,
Yeah.
does tapping, some of the hesitations that Tanya had, that can be something that you can address.
Yeah.
If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I've got lots of ideas on that. Like, has
Awesome.
anyone had a bad experience with tapping? Because
Yeah.
a lot of times, if you don't have a good skilled practitioner, they can open up a trauma capsule and you can be triggered and be left.
You don't know where to go.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. So there are some, you don't want to scare people because it is a very forgiving tool. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, you want people to be aware. So I got to
And
think
some
carefully about
people,
those things.
and I'm going to say this, not in any way dissing what you do, because I told you I've had a positive experience. But when I first heard of it, and I can even hear some people will think it's hokey, right?
Yeah,
and so
for sure.
and so kind of
My husband
addressing
used to
that.
make fun of me all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm really clear about the
Yeah.
the hokey
Right.
part.
The hokey part. Yeah. I've got a couple of those too. And even me, I was like, hey, what's tapping and how does that work? And I had to go through an experience where it like triggered an actual pain point for me, because tapping may not work if I'm not feeling the overwhelm. If I'm not feeling that, then it might not work as well for me because I'm not in that place. Right.
Yeah.
But if I'm in that place, it should. Whereas the tapping I did really hit healing. It's something I needed to heal. Right. So yeah. Okay. So I love that. So, okay. So if you could come up with a welcome template, something, make sure that's connected. The other thing we want to start looking ahead at is marketing. I know you've all been thinking about this, but a big piece of marketing is how active are you, not just in social media, but in sharing an opt-in. And so if you don't have that opt-in, this is where this is so important, because the number one way that you can share with your audience that you have something to give them, a value that they can invest in, is that they're on your newsletter list, right? Because you can put it on social media. The other way is doing it personally and inviting them, finding beta testers. So that can be something else, is if you say, okay, do I have a group of people that I could reach out to? And I know we've got this circle, but do I have a group of people who are willing to come in and do this, that I could reach out to and say, hey, I'm starting something new. But these need to be people who are in your warm audience that you connect with all the time. So it's not like doing a cold lead that maybe you haven't talked to for a while and you say, I'm doing this. You don't want to do that with this first group of people, if that makes sense. In this first group, it's finding those that they know what you do, they've been with you for a while, and you're just saying, hey, I just want you to know you've been with me for a while, or good friends, I'm trying this out and I just want a couple people to come in and try this with me. And it can be free, right? Just a couple of them to get that trade. Say, hey, if you come in, I'm going to give it, because you know the value of what you're doing. And this is just for initial, like Tanya, if you need to fill it, right? You need a couple more people in there. There might be a couple in the circle that you're willing to offer it there too. Like for both of you, it can even be the circle who say, hey, I'm doing this. I'm looking for a couple people to, like, Kim, what you did before, give me some feedback. You're looking for testimonials, you're looking for feedback. And then so that's a way to do it. And then, but we want to look at a marketing plan, and that's where the 5-day challenge comes in down the road. And so kind of looking at how you could do one of those, but really it's, okay, how am I putting this out there that I've got this? And it can be initially that you're not even saying you have it yet, but that you are, but that you're posting pain points on it. Does that make sense? You're posting things on it so people know when you're talking about it. You can say, I'm so excited, I have this community that's coming up, or I have this course that I've been working on that I'm so excited to share. You know what I mean? And you can share it that way and kind of drip it out that way too, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hi, Diane.
Kim is in a pool. Kim.
I know. I'm
So,
multitasking. I'm doing my
she's in her-
spa for the day.
I'm impressed that you
My
have your
morning
phone.
routine.
You have your phone with you in a pool, and I want to be in a pool.
It's just a hot tub.
I
Okay,
want to be in a hot tub with my phone.
Sorry, I had totally interrupted Kim, so I'm sorry.
Sorry, Kim. I'll be quiet.
No, it's okay. What I was going to ask is, I really liked Brooke's thing on setting up, I think it's lists in Facebook. So I was going to go through and pick everyone that's divorced, that's like, I know is in my single LDS community.
Yeah.
And then do my mail campaign specific, so that I know it's only going to that group instead of to my broad, to all my Facebook friends kind of a thing.
And even though is one thing to keep in mind, it's good to have some posts going out there, because those people know people. So like me going out there, like, oh, I know somebody who could really use this. So to not discount the people who aren't in your audience, because that's how you're going to grow that. Is like, for instance, I may not. Point. So like even with Tanya, I might be like, oh, that's not for me right now, but I have these other moms to share, say, hey, and you can even ask your audience, hey, I've got this and I'm looking for those who this can help. Can you share this for me? Does that make sense? And you're just saying, feel free to share it in case, because people I don't know, but it's not necessarily to be super salesy. It's just more of, hey, I want to share this with people, and it's okay if it's not for everybody. Does that make sense? So that way they know, hey, I've got this, and nobody will know you have something if you don't say anything. So even Kim, on your, when you're doing the stories, both of you, like some great things in your stories that you can do on Instagram are to say you're working on this. And then to say, but if you want something from me, like here's a free opt-in. And I know, so I would really make sure that both of you feel like you are getting your opt-in solid at some point, if that makes sense. So like Kim, I know you've been working on that. And then neither one of you were able to be on Monday's call, correct? With foundations. And that's okay, because I don't want to repeat something that we said already.
I was
just
deep
don't want
in
to feel
colonoscopy mode.
That's right. Definitely not on the golf. And that's just so we don't feel like I'm like being a broken record when I share this. So one thing to keep in mind is that when Tasha came on the DTLC, she is an expert what she's done. She's been doing it for, over 5 years. She knows like this is, and she's been doing it for a long time, right? And to know that you might have heard, okay, we're saying get it down to 1 page. And she's like, okay, like 3 to 5 pages. So here's what we want to tell you is that we really want you to get a solid opt-in first, like simple. And it can be 1 page. And then if you want to flesh it out later, that's great too. Like a 1 and 3rd page, but we don't want you to feel overwhelmed that you have to do all of that at once. But the number one thing with that opt-in is it needs to hit a pain point and create some sort of outcome for them. That's a tangible outcome, right? So making sure that when they get that, so like, for instance, like, what are they going to do when they get it? They're actually going to do something. They're going to become something. They're going to feel something, right? Like we talk about with our outcomes. So, hey, I'm going to give you this one thing that's going to help you do this. Like, they're going to write a mission statement. They're going to, like Kim, we had talked about for you, they do that tapping session, right? They can do, or they do something where they're going to be able to clear one thing, you know, and it's a short 8 to 10 minute thing, and it's a taste, a Costco sample, if that makes sense. So making sure that that's clear so that you can share that and have that, because that is part of your marketing, so that you're sharing that at least once a week on your social media. At least once a week. It doesn't have to be all the time, but that's once a week where you're inviting them to come on to your newsletter list, even if you're not sending out a newsletter yet, but to come onto that and to get that from you, if that makes sense. So if that is helpful. Okay. Any questions on that, on your opt-in?
Yeah, I have a question on that. So right now I'm wanting to get solid in like a marketing plan and focus on doing that. And even if I need to push out our starting another week, I can do that. But it feels like to me, like I can see that I need to make some changes in my opt-in, but it doesn't feel like I need to do that right this minute. Cause like the people that I'm going to be bringing into my group are probably not going to be coming in just from an email from the opt-in. Like I'm going to be personally inviting people and doing that personal connection right now. And so I guess that's where I wanted to, you know, ask you, Lamira, like, do I need to have, you know, since I was going to go on Connie's podcast on the 16th, do we need to, I just can't, I'm not sure if I can get that done by then. So would it be better to wait for me to go on our podcast, and I can have it cleaned up to where it looks decent and, you know, but as far as like totally changing it, I don't know if I'm going to get to
I
that.
don't know if you need to totally change what you have. It just might be simplifying it. Like, just like whether,
I guess that's what I'm saying is I don't know if I have the bandwidth right now to even do that, because I've got a lot of other things that I need to be doing in the next couple of weeks. So I guess and we could talk about this later, if you just send me a polo back about that, so I can get back with Jerusha and let her know if I can do that date or not. I just
because
can't,
you already have,
like I can make that promise that I can get that.
because you already have your landing page. You already have that. You already have it ready to go. You have a download, right? And then do you have something that describes your download, like how to use it? Is it, you have two pages?
I have a getting set up page on how to use it. Yeah.
Diane, have you looked at Tanya's most recent opt-in?
I glanced.
It's not much different
not on my
than what
phone.
you saw.
I wanted to bring it up
I'm
on
just
my
changing the branding colors is what I've really.
Yeah, not her whole website. Not her whole website.
No, I think I wanted to pull it up on my phone, Tanya, and the last I opened it up, I was on the computer. So let me.
Because Diane, would you? It's her 5-minute habits, like it's her morning routine. And so it's not the sales page, which she's done, but it's her morning routine, because I think if we could do it in a way that it's simplified, right? That we don't want you to feel like you have to redo the whole thing, that you're spending hours on it, because you already have spent so much time on it, right? But that it's like okay, if Diane, if you were to download this and see are there some quick and simple changes that Tanya could make that could take her maybe 5 or 10 minutes, not, you know, an hour.
So it's not the page that you sent me, it's a different one.
So this is the first thing that like you looked at several weeks ago. That was my morning routine. The
morning routine one.
Yes.
Yeah, so because your landing page, I just wanted to double check your landing page looks great on mobile, and Lamira might have already told you that.
And I went through it on desktop, and it looks amazing. And I gave her a few little suggestions. So
yeah. Are you talking about my website?
I'm just talking about,
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, so now.
On her
send me
set,
the
that's
link.
her community page.
Would you
her sales
just
page.
shoot me over the link, Tanya, real quick?
For my opt-in or
Yeah, right? Myra, that's what you want me to check in? is
Yes, her
opt-in.
5-minute
Yes.
habits. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
yes,
you
I
know
will
what,
do that.
Tanya? And I know that am I meeting you today or tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
So yeah, shoot that over to me because I don't want you to have to do any more with it. I know that feeling of
Yeah.
like, I just don't have any more bandwidth. So let's.
And I can see that I can, like, I don't mind changing it. I just don't know that I'm going to be able to
So,
do it.
Diane, the
Right.
big question is do we feel that, and I would love your thoughts on this collaboration, because like I said, Tanya has done so much and she did such a great job of paring down already, but making sure that because she wants to, it would be great if she could do a podcast with Connie on May 16th. And just if by that time, if we are looking at that and going, yeah, that would be a good opt-in that's not paired with a 5-day challenge. We don't have time to put up eventually.
Oh,
Yes, we need to get Tanya to have something like that. But for right now, it's more a matter of, would this be a download that a mom could get and feel like
And so
it stands alone?
what I just sent you is just the landing page. What you probably need to see is the actual.
Yeah. But if she signs up for it, she'll get it.
She's already done that.
so
Let
yeah.
me,
let's see. Send it. What if I sign up? Have you changed it since I signed up for it, Tanya, or is it the same one?
I've
signed up
only-
for?
no, well, a little, I'm in the process of changing the emails right now, just for branding.
But Diane, you can do the
branding
plus
for-
one where you do Diane at DianePassy.com +1, like do
Yeah.
the +1. So it's like an extra.
Yeah.
I do that all the time, like a test.
But I can just share I'll just share the file with you, and I can do it after we get off of here.
Yeah.
Because so as easy as possible, Tanya, here's what I have loved about, this is what I've noticed about you, and I know I've communicated with this for you before. You really are so good at focusing in and getting something done, and like you're really good at I would love to know what your Clifton strengths are, because your ability to like see what needs to be done and get it done is really, I feel like is really, really good. Do you know your Clifton strengths?
Look, she's got them like,
Yes, I have. I know. So learner, connectedness, strategic, intellection, and positivity are my top 5.
It's your strategic.
It's the strategic. It's the learner. Yeah. Interesting. You and Lamira both have that learner in there.
Well, so does Kim. Kim has a learner.
Kim, do you have learner
too.
in there too? Yeah.
I do. Mine's number 1. I have learner, value, focus, achiever, and relator in my top 5.
Interesting. So it must be that strategic part of your brain. But Tanya, again, like if you're feeling the pressure of the date, if that's like that, your mental headspace will just, at least for me, this is how it's worked for me. If am I feeling a ton of pressure from a date and it feels like I'm just really pushing it, I am not in a good place to be in that sales, like show up how I'm supposed to show up that right before it starts. And I have done that so many times where I'm just so burned out by then. And I just feel so much anxiety and overwhelmed by them that I just can't, my launch doesn't go well. And I can just feel it doesn't go well because I have pushed myself too hard. So just keep that in mind. If it's another 7 days that you need, then it's another 7 days. If you feel like, except for the opt-in, that you have all the pieces together and you're ready to go and you are not feeling completely exhausted and drained, then that's, then that's different. How do you feel like you're doing?
I'm feeling, well, I'm also speaking next week I have a speaking event next Wednesday. And so I'm feeling really, I'm really struggling to get my speech the way I want it. I'm really having a hard time.
You're working on
I had a group of friends come over last week and watch me give it, and it was just way too much. I need to pare it way down and kind of shift. They had a lot of really good suggestions, but I'm struggling to do that, to get that where I want it to be.
Suck that it's always the answer to pare it down. I know, because Kim, you got the same feedback, and that's what the feedback I kept getting is make it smaller. And I'm like, what? you know.
Yeah.
It's
and
how
so
to know how to do it, right? That's hard.
It's
I
hard.
feel
It
the
is.
same way.
I know,
we
I
wanna,
just felt like I needed to
serve-
start all over again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we want to serve our communities, and so we're like, all of this helpful stuff we want to give you, and then to have the answer be, actually, don't give them that much. Give them 1/10 of that much, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, and that can be stressful. Okay, so what I hear you saying is that you have your keynote coming up next week, and you're doing that at the same time as this, and maybe that going back and forth and trying to manage both of those. Does that feel like a lot right now?
It's feeling like a lot, and I'm at a place like I still need to like, you know, get my onboarding emails in place. I need to, you know, get my Calendly times figured out. Like I have a lot of still back end stuff that I need to do. And then I also feel like I need to start, you know, inviting people to the group and get that going. And so it does feel like a lot right now.
And I would
right now I
agree.
have one, go ahead.
I would agree with the amount of time that you have, that is a lot to do in that amount of time. And I would maybe reconsider. And it's okay that it's the next time you do this, Tanya, it won't take as long. The launch will not be as long. You're going to feel more comfortable having the foundation set up and having it set up in a way that feels good and that you're confident about. Then you will rushing it, because next time when you launch it, it's going to feel like a rush again, because you're going to be trying to fix. You're already going to be updating and fixing little things, but it's almost like that. It won't take the pressure off the next one. You'll feel better giving yourself that little bit extra time so that you can feel sure about it. So that next time when you do it, it's going to be half as much work, maybe even 1/3 of the amount of work. So that's kind of my thought, is that does feel like that's a lot to do. That is a lot on your plate.
Okay. I think, well, I mean, a lot of it is coming from, I know that I need to, like, I really need my business to at least be making my business expenses. And like for May, I still have one client that pays me about $400 that month. But then my other 2 are potentially dropping off, and I'm just not quite sure yet. And then, so it's like, I don't know, that's where I need something in place, but I also I have it set up to where people can just schedule a one-on-one call with me. So, you know, at least.
Yes. And this is what Amanda has talked me through, because I was kind of in this place about 3 months ago. And she said, figure out how much you need and ask Heavenly Father for that amount. And then always ask him or more. And we kind of talked about that at the retreat, and said, okay, Heavenly Father, this is as much as I need to be able to meet these expenses. For me, it was for several months last fall. It was, I need to be able to make the $1,000 for the DTLC plus this amount for like the however much it was for my other business expenses. So help me figure out either how to reduce expenses, or like, this is what I need, and you know that I need this. Help me know what to do, and I'm willing to work. And he knows you're willing to work, Tanya. You are a worker. And so you're not just like sitting around waiting for people to just come to you. You're putting yourself out there. You're building a foundation. You just don't know. We still have a little bit. And so even if you were to launch it at that last week in May, that's still the money coming in for the month of May, right?
Yeah, it is. And it just, as I'm thinking, it's like, maybe like there's some things that I could do work-wise that will bring in money right now that, sorry, my dog is barking, that I can bring in money right now and then still be working on these back end things, but plan on like starting June in the group. Like,
take it to the Lord and see what feels right. Sometimes it's a third option. Like sometimes, it's coming up with something like that. It's not, do I start it this date or do I not start it? It's like, Heavenly Father, help me see, is there a third option? And oftentimes our third option is the best option. And it takes a bit, it can take some thinking through, and it can take some time to craft and like create a different idea. But I love the example of, when the brother Jared needed the rocks, it wasn't like, either I have light that God gives me, or we go in the dark. It was like, well, let me figure out another third option. And that third option took work. It took him having faith, and it took him actually going and deciding this is what he wanted to do and getting those stones and then taking it back to the Lord. So sometimes that's what it's looked like for me, is help me. I don't see where this money is coming in next month. Help me to see what it is. What stones do I need to craft? Like, help me to see the way that I can work, and that so that you guys are both coming together, but then you rely on your Heavenly Father to say, okay, money is just not a thing for God. Like, it's just not, like, it is a thing, but it's not like, you know, you can create money. Help me know how to either create money or decrease my expenses somehow, or what do I need to do? I'm doing the best I can with what you've given me. Now what's my next step? And then because I don't know if being hurried and tense and launching it is going to be the results you want. And I might be talking to those clients that you're not quite sure if they're going to hang on a month. Maybe you tell them, if you coach with me next month, I'm going to give you your first month free in my group, or I will, you know, something like that, or invite them to invite a friend. If they invite a friend, then they both get half off for the next month. Like, think of it proactively. If you will coach with me one more month, you get the first month. You can be part of this group for free. Or I don't know, come up with something. Think of a way to maybe, so you're not having to pull in what you don't already have. If you have clients that are already willing to pay the money or have in the past, then those are your such warm clients, and that you may be able to get them to buy into something else or bring somebody with them on the journey. Does that, any of those ideas,
Yeah, I like those ideas a lot, and that gives me some things to think about and start kind of praying about and just mulling over. So no, that's really good. Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
If you need to, Tanya, if you think about it and you're like, no, come back and need to push back, you can always push back the date of your podcast. It's great if it's the week before you're like officially launching. Do you know what I mean? That they get that free opt-in, but then it's because then the idea is that once they get in, they'll know when you're launching that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So,
it does. So that way, and if I push everything out so I could finish up some of the back end work, then I probably could get my opt-in, you know, up a little bit. And
because that's, you really want that for the podcast, right? That's what you want to lead people to, is that free thing. And then you're also going to be able to say, and so that way, you know, when I'm launching this community for 5-minute habits for moms, but they want to be able to get that trust, that buy-in from you first, to be like, oh, this is what she does. I love what she does. Now I want to be a part of that community. So that's what the whole idea of having that opt-in is ready to do and ready to go for. And I love that Diane has shared all this wisdom and experience with you. So that way you're able to go, okay, how does that fit? So.
Okay, I just wanted to say something real quick, but I'm getting dressed, so I'm not on camera.
That's okay.
I'm gonna hurry to my next appointment.
You don't have to bear all of your soul, Kim. It's okay. We gotcha.
But no, what I wanted to say is I really appreciate Diane's comments, because I always think I'm partnering with my Heavenly Father and I'm really close, but just the way you phrased it in terms of the questions to ask, and I mean, it's like a whole different level of partnering that I forget about almost. So I really, really appreciate your guidance or input on that.
You bet.
You know, and jumping on that with her, I just listened to What Is Your Calling in Life by Jeffrey R. Thompson again. I listened to it over the retreat weekend, and that's a good one to listen to too, because he talks about that sometimes we think we get into our mission and our purpose and it's all bliss, and it's not. Like, there is work, and we have to bring the work with that mission and go, okay. And that was eye-opening to me, because we think, oh, I should be happy all the time. Like, no, like we have to get sweat. We have to build barges, right? And we have to like go make that. And I love that. Basically what I heard Diane saying is, okay, there's a third way. And then we have to ask the Lord to light the stones, that he's going to magnify that for us. So I love it.
And so, you know, a lot of the time I think of all the things I've done that have not worked out. And it actually, like right now is serving me in such a good way. And so I think for you, Tanya, the same thing. And for you, Kim, when we have ways that we try that are not quite right, sometimes we experience them because they're going to give somebody else the wisdom and help somebody else avoid the same pitfall. So I'm happy to take it for you guys. Just bring on the hard stuff. I'll take it and I'll help you know how to do it a little better than I did. And so it sucks to sometimes go through that, but every step we take is a learning thing. And we're like, okay, so I like the way this worked. I don't like the way this worked. I'm going to know better next time. You're awesome. You guys are awesome. There's a lot of work, but you can totally do it. So both of you are in such a unique position. And I'm glad that you guys have like this different little community that you can talk, because your business is just a little further along. And so it's a good thing to be able to refine and kind of hash out some of these things. So thanks for showing up. Thank you to myself for showing up 20 minutes before it ended. Sorry.
And you showed up right when we needed you, Diane.
Oh, good.
And thank you.
Good.
You gave the answers that Tanya and Kim were looking for. So I am so glad that you came, because I don't have all the answers. And so, okay. So just as recap as we go. Okay. I talked about doing that welcome, just that one email. Don't worry about all the emails. Just worry about that one, that welcome. Like you said, the onboarding email, Tanya, just that one that just says welcome. And then they can sit in a holding pattern. They can sit and wait for however many weeks. That can change, but as long as they get that initial welcome, that's all you want first. Okay. And then if you want to look at the module in Member Vault, so not in Brooks, but about a marketing plan, and that might give you some ideas of things that you can do for marketing. Okay.
Where can I find that?
It will be in the course and community. I'll put it in the email.
Okay.
And just know, like anything we give you, I love that both you and Kim come back and say, okay, I've really been thinking about this. I've researched this, because you're both learners. So I totally get that. And then you go, but this is resonating with me. This is not. And then being able to come back and say, and then hearing, okay, maybe this is a block and we can work through it. You know what I mean? Like third way, that type of thing. So, but I want you to look if that is where you're ready to go. But I know you have, when is your keynote due? Like, when are you giving your keynote?
A week from today.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I just I've got a rough draft. And I have like kind of an outline. I feel like I'm a lot closer than I was, but I really in the next couple of days would like to have it. Okay, this is it. So I can start really practicing it. I mean,
yes.
It just feels like right now, this huge culmination of everything I've worked on in the last 10 years. And so there's like all these big emotions I'm dealing with. Like I had a session with a friend of mine that she does yamana ball rolling. So it like releases all this stuff from your body. And I'm just like crying the whole time.
Yeah. And you know what?
I've just got all this, big stuff.
One thought with that keynote is the more you stand up and practice just a piece of it, because I've been doing this in the speaking track, just a piece of it, there might be words that come that will flow better. And you're like, oh, this isn't flowing right. So even just saying 5 minutes at a time, like one point at a time, will help to break it up into that chunks.
Yeah. Okay.
So get it, because I found that for me when I practiced my little hook yesterday, and I was like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that experience, and that's the one to go on my hook, but it didn't come until I stood up and words came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So that's just a thought. So if you can each in the WhatsApp, since I know we're over, and I apologize, just put in the WhatsApp what the one thing is you're focusing on this week. You kind of know your next steps in your course, but what that one thing is, so that you're not overwhelmed. Okay. And Tanya, if yours is, I need to work on this keynote, then work on that keynote, right? And that's okay too. And just saying, and if you need to push back your podcast, then just reach out to Jerusha and say, I need to bump it to this
I haven't
day.
committed yet. I wanted to talk to you.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So I would take it to the Lord. And if you're feeling good about bumping it a week, then bump it a week. So anyway, sorry. She's like, you are past time. So anyway. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. See you in a little bit.
Okay. See ya.
See you. Bye.